to take out the door hinge pins. I got this new tool from Eastwood. It has got removable pins. They're got a little bit of a taper to them. Some of them do, some of them don't. Came with a few different pins, different sizes, different lengths for different size pins, I guess. We're gonna try this. All right, well, that went pretty much how I expected it to. I was able to get the front pins loose on both sides. They popped free right away. I was really surprised at that. The bottom ones, not so much. They were really fighting me. I tried heat. I tried everything you see in the time-lapse video. I'm just gonna keep working on it. That's the best I can do. And I really don't want to replace hinges if I don't have to, but at this point it's kind of looking like it might be my best option, and it's not the worst thing in the world. Well, so much for this Eastwood pin press. Popped out the top ones, but didn't stand a chance on the bottom ones. It's a little bent. Pin ain't gonna line up anymore, so this thing's trash. Oh well. Now I have to do new hinges, so I'm gonna get those ordered. Figure out how to get the old ones out. I am not looking forward to that. Everything in there is really, really rusty. Let's take a look. Here we are inside the car. This is the bottom of the A-pillar. There's the door hinge there. Inside there is pretty rusty, just like everything else on this car. The whole bottom half of this thing is just trashed, so I'm going to replace a lot of that. And then the upper hinge is buried in there. But before we cut any doors apart, I have the rockers on the way. I want to make sure that the rockers are going to fit somewhat, get an idea of what the door opening is supposed to look like, how the door is supposed to close against the rocker, get some types of ideas before I go pulling the doors off. I don't have hinges, so it's going to be really hard to put the doors back on, and I really need to fit the doors while the rockers are on. So I'm not going to mess with pulling the doors off at this point. We're going to move on to fixing fenders. The front fenders have a lot of work that need to happen, and as you've seen, the bottom of the quarters are rusty, or the front cowl is rusty, I'm sorry. But the bottom of the front cowl is rusty there. That's all needs to be replaced. I have cage nuts coming. I'm going to replace the cage nuts in there, and then I'll be able to mount the fenders, mount the grill, and be able to repeat that. Then I'll feel a lot better. Watch along. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Now that we got this down to bare metal and a big dust cloud in my little shop, I cleaned both sides with the wire wheel. I got this down to bare metal. It's nice and clean. We're gonna make a template. This is all ripped. This area here is all damaged. we're gonna take a closer look at that. I'm gonna show you how I make a template. This is gonna be a really, really simple template. Pretty much anybody can do this. So let's have a closer look. A lot of time, what I use for template paper is just shipping paper, stuff that they crumple up and they put in boxes. I save it, I reuse it. We don't need a lot here. These magnets, these are just push pin magnets that I get on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. You can see there's a crack right here. We're gonna come just on the other side of that crack. And then that crack continues about to that point. So we're gonna make that template it's very simple, that big. Okay. We got that inside edge is very close to what we need for this fender already. So we're just gonna trace underneath. I use mechanical pencils because mechanical pencils have a really fine tip and they're always sharp. The key is making a good template. If you make a good template and take your time with your template, chances are you're gonna make a good part. Now this is cracked in the middle, remember that? Right here, cracked in the middle. So we're just gonna pinch that together and I'm gonna trace that inside circle. And that is my fender mount flange hole. But I'm not gonna poke any holes in my template. I'm gonna use that and I'm gonna put my center mark in that template on the other side, and then I'm gonna transfer it to my metal. These holes are gigantic and they're only 5/16 bolts. That's to allow a lot of movement, plus they're in cage bolts. So that allows the sheet metal to have some movement. I'm gonna restrict that movement by making this hole smaller so I can have a tighter hole alignment while I'm setting the front end up. It's gonna make it harder, but it's gonna make it align better. And then I can move the hole in whatever direction I need it to be to adjust the sheet metal and then make it round versus having just a gigantic hole. I hope that makes sense. But we're gonna grab a Sharpie real quick. So we've got everything laid out on this template right now. And I'm just gonna make some reference marks with Sharpie. Those will also be my cut lines. So you want those to be as accurate as possible. We're gonna use this template, obviously transfer that onto sheet metal. And that's what's gonna be the piece of flange. And this flange looks kind of messed up, see that? So we're gonna make a nice straight line through here. first of all. Double check. Okay. Okay. Now we'll remove the template. Before getting carried away, have a look. That hole's there. Gives me enough to give me center. That hole is jagged. Okay, let's cut it out. A lot of different ways to do this. This is how I do it. So I made that circle in there. I go grab my template. I find what hole lines up with that the best, right? So I found that my 5/8 hole was nice and tight, right around there, exactly how I wanted it. Okay. So then I just use my pencil and I fill these little holes in right here. Then I take my template and I flip it around back on that 5/8. I line my 2 horizontal dots back up. I make my 4th point there. That gives me the 4 points that I need to make intersections with to get my center point. Okay. Then I took my transfer punch on a scrap piece of paper. I need the transfer to be on the other side. That's where the hole was made, the circle was made from the inside of the fender. I need to transfer that to the other side of the paper because we're working from the outside, from the template, remember? All right, so I just punched a hole in here, flipped it over, repunched that hole right in there. So now we have a center mark. It's hard to see, but we do have a center mark right there for our fender bolt hole. Now we're gonna line it all up on the fender. We got that section fit in there and it fits like a glove. There's a little bit of a curl to the inside of this fender and that piece is perfectly flat in both directions. There's no shape in it whatsoever. So there is gonna need to be a little bit of hammered ollie work. We're gonna weld what is nice and touching. Nice and tight gaps, you know, like we want it. And you can see that hole is there facing up the bolt hole center point. So we're gonna get it all tacked into place. Let's do this. All right, this will be the first time welding on this fender. So we got low amps running at 41 amps right now. And we're just gonna tack it. The magnet makes the arc really unstable, so you got to be careful welding really close to a magnet when you're TIG welding. Otherwise you get really terrible welds like that. But that's good enough to hold for right now. Nope, it's not. Blooper reel. We'll tack a little bit further away. Got a little bit of porosity. I expected that. Okay, we're gonna get that cleaned up a little bit. Hammer and dolly, this is uneven. We gotta work that down. Get that, like I said, cleaned up, clean up those welds. Get that area there cleaned up a little bit more and reshaped, you know, just a little. But it's looking great so far. Okay, there I was hammering on dolly. I know, really loud. But I was hammering on dolly in order to smash these welds to regain somewhat of a gap in there. Otherwise it gets a little bit too tight for final weld. And also, I was just reshaping this area. Now it's nice and flat and flush and it's all ready to weld. This is all nice and flush and ready to weld on both sides. Nice and smooth. That's gonna finish out. When we come to metal finish everything, that's gonna metal finish really nice. So I'm gonna get a wire wheel. I'm gonna clean up these welds, clean this little booger off, and we'll get to final weld. got that all welded in and metal finished. Nice. Good enough for the inside of the fender. There's a little bit of warpage here. I'm gonna have to get in there and do a little bit of shrinking, which isn't a big deal. So now it's time to punch the hole in there. I'm gonna use this awesome Rockford. It's made in Rockford, but it's a Roper Whitney hole punch made for sheet metal. It's pretty cool. It's got a little point in there that will, you'll feel it right on that center point. We're gonna adjust that bottom die in there because it's a little too much, too open. I can't really get a good grip on it. Okay, and then you just give it a punches a hole. It's a 9/32 hole right there. We'll use the unibit, step it up a little bit to a 5/16, just so I can get a bolt through there. That's all I want for now. Like I said, I'll open that hole up later. Not quite yet. See, right there. Nice and tight fit. I know I think I'm crazy because that is gonna fight me later, but it'll be worth it in the long run. All right, the time's come. I am gonna do a little bit of body work on this, get that sheet metal a little bit flatter, and then I think I'm gonna call this section right here done for now. And we'll move on to something else. For watching this patch panel repair. That was a pretty easy one. We've got plenty more to go that are going to involve a lot more complex shaping, a lot more different welding techniques, different uses of different clamps, things like that. Watch along, like, and subscribe. Thank you.
I also wanted to say thank you again for watching. I know there's a million people on YouTube. You could be doing anything right now, but you chose to watch me, and I really do appreciate that. I'm learning still. There's a lot to learn. There's bloopers. I just, in this video, screwed up half of the video because I had the camera angle wrong. I'm still learning. My music sucks. I know these things. I know that they're terrible. I'm doing the best that I can. I really, really, really appreciate y'all. So just hang with me. I'm gonna keep putting out content. Hopefully I get better. Please subscribe, please tell people about me, what we're doing here, what I'm doing here, and I really appreciate y'all. Thank you. Shit.
Blah, 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 yaggity schmackety. This here is gonna go on there and go schmickety schmickety.